when you have people that are around you that are aligned the same way, thinking, not exactly the same way, but thinking critically and pushing themselves, that brings out the best in others on the journey as well, right?
But the idea of the summit, for one, it's to build all that belief that they can do it, how to go through it, how to assess these things, how to implement these strategies. Man, it's the amount of time it took me to sort of get here. It's been earned.
There's something else that you mentioned, which is like the overconfidence of investors. They bought a few, then they're like, hey, mate, I don't need you guys. Thank you very much. And it's the word that I've come to research, which is called hubris.
Okay.
So hubris is when you get overconfident.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so like, thanks guys, you got me to this point, but I'll take it from here.
Yeah.
And then he said, so, they come back. And it's cool. You welcome back with open arms.
Yeah,
it's like, welcome back to the family, you prodigal son. But take us through, like you might see a bit of this hubris in action, right? Where it's like this overconfidence and then something goes amiss.
There's no shortcut. We were talking before about shortcuts.
Yeah.
There's no shortcut to knowing how to buy a deal properly and buy well.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that was one of the questions that I think really stood out, because someone had the gusto to stand up and go, hey, mate, what makes you guys different compared to other BAs, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that's probably the question that was on a lot of people's minds, especially the people that haven't used APS, is going, buyers agents seem like a fairly similar proposition, right? Like brokers are all the same, effectively same service. How do you have that point of difference? And I think when I heard you guys actually articulate this and go, we actually buy under market value, and here's how we know we buy under market value, I was like, oh, that's a secret sauce that kind of came out as well. Do you want to kind of elaborate on that?
Firstly, man, I laugh at anyone that says all brokers are the same. You know what I mean? Like, it's, you and I both know why we would laugh at that side of things. Yeah. There's brokers that can take you to a 20-plus property portfolio, and there's brokers that can submit loan docs. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then there's a lot of stuff in between as well. So there is chalk and it's like anything in life. You know what I mean? Like, there's elite level at everything, and there's entry level at everything. And I think to really break this down, it comes down to like how long we've been doing it for, the connections that we build over a long period of time, and then the understanding around what actually is genuine market value. And that's where most people get it wrong. I've been doing this for so long that I can look at a property within I can do a 2 to 5 minute FISO, depending on the complexity of the actual property that I'm studying, and tell you within $5,000 what a value will value it at. Now, how do I know that? How do you go, how do you know what a value is going to value at? Because we have valuers inside the team that literally vet every single deal. So before a deal even comes to me for assigning to a client, it's been valued 3 times internally before it even gets to me to be assigned. So firstly, the BA, who's a market expert and an area expert in every area, in every area that we operate, our guys are area experts. So they have 1-2 councils max. And they have that because you can't operate across 12 councils and be an area expert in 12 councils. You know, it just doesn't happen. Yeah. So they are area experts from that perspective, understand what market value is in deal. They'll obviously vet it, value it, and then negotiate it. And then before it even comes to me, it's got to pass through 2 sets of valuer hands to come in at the same valuations. Or if it's not, they've got to go back and value and negotiate it back down before then it comes to me for a final value and an assigning of a client. And again, if it gets to me and I don't agree with it, or there's something that I think something's been missed, or I need to check something from an environmental perspective, or a location specific perspective, things like that. Because obviously I've bought thousands of deals now. You know what I mean? I've had my hand in thousands of deals and purchases and transactions. So you know what will actually affect the sales price of something on the back end when you go to sell it, especially if we're buying off market. Yeah. And you know what will actually add value from that perspective too. Yeah. So there's a lot of pros and cons to this side of thing. And so, man, it's got to pass through that many sets of hands and be valued from that many set of hands before it ever comes through to me to actually, or before it ever goes to a client. And I think when clients understand that, they're just like, it just makes so much, like what are they going to jump on realestate.com and have a look? It's like, it's been properly valued by this many people. And man, that's how we ensure that quality control is so high. Because you would have also remembered, I asked anyone in the room, 450 people there was something like 80% of the room was APS clients, something like 70-80% of the room was APS clients. And I said, who in here is an APS client? All these hands went up. Who has not made money on a deal with APS? That's a pretty ballsy move to make live in a room. Every single hand went down. And I said, be honest. If there's anyone that hasn't, let's go. Let's break a deal down up here. Let's see what went wrong, if anything went wrong. There would have been 350, 400 people that put their hands down at that point and didn't say anything. And it's because we just go through such a rigorous check, and it's the market selection as well, and that's a big thing, man. A lot of people, they hear high school dropout, no uni degree, no trade, they think no formal education. What's this bum talking about, right? But man, like I'm smart at what I'm smart at, and when I really enjoy something, I spend so much time researching it and so much time, energy, effort, money to really understand things, and I've got a very counter-cyclical way of looking at markets, and it has paid off for me every single time. I've never got a market wrong. We got into Perth in 2020. No one else was there in 2020. People who've been into Perth since 2020 have doubled their money or more. Some of our guys exited at 150% who bought at that time. I still believe there's growth left in Perth. I still think the market's got run in the tank. But man, if you had bought in 2020, 2021, like Jace, right, was on the potty. Yeah. When he first entered, people were saying to him, what's a buyer's agent? No, agents were saying to him, what's a buyer's agent? That's no one else was there. But then the market turned at the end of 2021. We had a 12-month buying window with no one. And then in 2022, the market went crazy. It started to uptick at the end of 21 and then it went crazy.
What did you see there that no one else did?
It's industry secrets, brother.
That's why I've got you here. So.
I know. There was a lot of things, man. But like a lot of people were like, it's a mining town, it's blah, blah, blah. Man, it's fucking 2.2 million people. It's not a mining town. You know what I mean? It was the fourth largest capital city in Australia. Affordability was ridiculous. The quality of the house you could buy in the areas that you could buy, that it was so good. And then the rents were strong and everything. Man, I'm just looking at everything. And that's just the base level metrics, right? But even those stacked up to then go and do my 40 other checks to see what came off the back of it as well. But when all those things stack up, you're just like, this makes a lot of sense. Let's dive deeper into it. And so we flew over, got on the ground. I was on the ground for about 2 weeks when I was first there, checked out all these different areas. And I'm just like, man, this makes so much sense. And this is where, like, I bet you every single person who listens to this would see some flop that jumps up on their Instagram talking about blue chip. You need to buy with all the long-term average capital growth, 15%.
This would have been me a while ago, mate.
But it is the most idiotic way of thinking of investing. It is the most novice, and sorry to say this, but like you said, this is the way you used to think about it.
100%. I'm like, you're preaching to the converted. I bought properties.
Man, and this is what I don't understand is that, man, there's these people out there that talk about it, and it's not just him, right? There's other people who are like older heads who he learned off as well, but there's older heads out there that talk about this stuff, and they've taught them, dude, you haven't changed the story for 30 years. The market is so different now. It's not just what's an average long-term producer. You don't want to sit on a property for 10 years in a down cycle and it does nothing. If I can double my money in 4 years and get out, why would you not do that? But like, and the whole metric around that, and that's why I talk about like counter-cyclical. A lot of people, like, they want to see the runs on the board or they want to see that long-term average. And I'm just like, man, that doesn't make sense because, like, how much growth's left in the tank? How much affordability is left in the tank? Zero or next to zero. I don't want next to zero, man. I want 100%. I want 70, 80, 100% plus. Like that, and that's the way that we look at it, man. And this is the difference between building a portfolio before you've made money rather than building it after you've made money. And so it's all well and good. You could have a $100 million portfolio. Okay, but did you have a $5 million business before you started? No, I had one property, 2 properties. Okay, sweet. So you don't understand how the average Australian income earner can build a portfolio. And that's as simple as it is, man. And I think that's where we look at it. And I don't target people who want to go invest in blue chip and spend $1 million, $2 million, all the rest of it. I can't help you because I don't believe in that product. I don't want to go out there and try and buy that product because I don't believe in it. But the average Australian incomes that are out there, but it can be anyone on any income, right? But what we really are able to help average Australian income, average Australian income earners, who can afford, the mortgage belt areas, and then where makes the most sense from a mortgage belt area. It's got good yields, got great potential for growth, great affordability, what's coming into the areas, all these sorts of things that'll give them a rapid return in 3 to 4 years. 1, 2, look at you, $100,000 in 6 months.
That's then.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I want to make money, man. I don't want to sit and hope and pray that this thing does double in 10 years because of the long-term average. Because if it doesn't, or even if it does, dude, by the time that run starts, if it's costing you 20, 30 grand a year, if you waited 10 years for it to double again, it's cost you $200,000 to $300,000 a year to hold it during that period, just through negative cash flow alone. You know what I mean? So how many of those could you stack?
Yeah, which is why they run out of borrowing capacity.
Exactly. It's a broken strategy, man. It's the old heads in the game that have been around forever. I won't even go into who some of these guys are, but obviously, like, it's an old strategy that's never been reinvigorated, man. You know what I mean? They're still blowing that same old trumpet that just doesn't work, especially for the average Australian income earner.
Yeah, so, I mean, the average income, especially if they've got a current home, there is no way they've got the borrowing capacity.
Very, very limited. Yeah, 100%.
And sometimes the investment property is almost worth the same as their owner occ. Yeah. So it's a very hard sell in to go, this is what you should be investing in, right? From an affordability perspective.
Sorry to get fired up on you, mate. I don't know.
Mate, I love it. This is me normally in the office getting fired up. So
this is me at the summit if someone asks me a dumb question.
I love the energy. And I think this is what conviction is.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're happy to be a bit of a wallflower and this is, you temper your message. It's, I don't know, I need a bit of fire in the belly, which is probably why we get along.
Man, it's why the number plates on the Lambo is Bull Shark, because that's my nickname. Fire a bit of blood in the water, mate. Here we go.
This is it, right? You get the red mist going. And when this vein pops out, man, that's what I mean business. So,
I get you. I love it, man.
And I think the other part to then lead into this is you spot opportunities in the market.
Yep.
Now, we've got the privilege of working with you guys. And no secret, you probably started buying in Victoria. Are you early to the party? Are you seeing something others aren't, for example? Because there's probably no market at the moment which is more controversial than buying Victoria.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down in Melbourne a little bit very recently. It's a bloody ghost town at the moment. And it's so polarizing for investors. I feel it's like there's no grey areas. It's black or white.
Look, I won't comment either way in terms of are we buying or not there right now.
Sure thing.
We're studying it closely, monitoring it very closely. Is the bottom here yet? Right, and I think that's the biggest question to ask, because when I assess a investor's portfolio and where I want to put them, and different levels of investors will have different diversity plays that we'll put into a portfolio, right? But then for a lot of investors, if they can go and make 20% growth in a location this year, as opposed to maybe a holding firm, maybe falling 5 or 10% for the next 12 months, what's the better play? That's a pretty obvious answer, on that front. But I think this is where it's really weighing into the equation. Is it the right time for an investor to get into that market?
Yeah.
What is the benefit of that location over a different location? And so there's been a lot of things that have really crushed the Victorian market in the past 2 years. You've had the rental reforms, which are extremely against landlords, which isn't smart, because there's a lot of people opting out as it was, and they got the big land tax changes. You bring in two things that are very costly to investors. You're going to get investors exit, which we've seen. Vacancy rates have been falling, which is a positive sign. But just because vacancy rates are falling and we've seen a bit of rental growth, it actually still hasn't balanced out the net loss now that we've had from the land tax reforms and from the changes in the rental reforms as well. So, man, I wouldn't be going down there and going super hard. Like, if it was me, it would be a very calculated decision if I was going in there at all. And then it would be, where's the right timing? And then what do I want to buy into as well? Weighing all these things into equation, especially like your land taxes and everything again, I'd be very wary of your blue chip sort of stuff. You are going to get absolutely decimated. Yields are terrible as it is, but then with the land tax reform on top of it, I hope you're okay holding 30,000+ a year negative for a blue chip asset, because that's what it's going to cost to hold. So I think if you do go down there, you've got to be very selective with what you go in for. Just make it calculated. It's the same as every decision you make as an investor. But there's different opportunities, I think, opening up.
Does it surprise you how bad the market's been down there, like when you look at it? Or, I mean, land tax
you look at it, man. Like, are we talking Melbourne or are we talking Victoria?
Melbourne, yeah. So if I isolate to maybe Melbourne.
Okay, so like in 2014 to 2018, man, the market nearly doubled. Right, so if you weigh that into the equation, like Sydney's been the anomaly because it still grew during COVID, okay, and Melbourne didn't because it was so bad down there. But realistically, dude, it was due for a lull. It had a huge amount of growth during that 14 to 18 window. It was due for a lull. It got expensive. I think the really interesting part that does warrant my attention is where affordability is now for that city. Population and affordability, they are really strong. The question is, has it bottomed?
Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing. And what everyone has to realize is Melbourne is a city of over 5 million people. When you say, has Melbourne bottomed, that is a freaking huge amount of area and a lot of suburbs to go, has it bottomed? Because different areas will bottom first compared to others. And so it's all a case by case. And so that's the way I would look at it, man. Case by case, where's stacking up, where isn't. And then kind of making a judgment call off the back of that.
I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
No worries, man.
Your podcast, like I said before, I'm listening to your podcast.
Thank you, mate.
I think straight shooting, for example. Some of the questions that come up when you're getting feedback from your listeners, what are some of the questions that surprise you in terms of like scaling portfolios and people getting, I guess, shiny object syndrome as well? What are you seeing at the moment?
Man, I think probably the biggest thing is people probably underestimating a little bit that it does take time. You know what I mean? There's stories like I was speaking about before with, the clients getting to 3 properties in the first 12 months.
Because, everyone's hearing that and they go, I want a bit of that.
Yeah. And man, realistically, like 50% of clients do get there in that same sort of time frame. But then the other 50% of clients, vals might fall short. Like full well, vals fall short. Not so much fall short, but they don't val up as high as we expect them to or where market might be. I look at another client of ours, Ella Woolcourt. I did her story a few months ago on the podcast as well. 5 properties by 24. Impressive result. Man, we got her in early in Perth, I think in like 21. Super cheap, dude, like 260 grand for like a 10, 15-year-old 3x1 house. You know what I mean? It was crazy deal. It didn't value up for 9 months. You know what I mean? Like we could see, and she was even texting me going, there's comparables in the street at 400,000 and I can't get we paid 260 and she couldn't get it to val above 260. It just did not make sense. And then all of a sudden, bang, like finally after 9 months, it valued up 100 grand up. And then she pulled it out, bought another one. And anyway, the snowball sort of started from it. But where I see a lot of people go wrong is that first val or that first piece of the process isn't exactly how they imagined it turned out.
I'm glad you said this because I'll take you from, I guess, my side of the fence and show you my perspective.
Yep.
What happens is you guys are buying early.
Yep.
So you're early to the party. But the way that the valuation systems, and particularly when you're trying to do a computer-based valuation, which is what you want, the sales data that feeds into the algorithm is off. It has to be sold and settled.
Yes.
So you can't go off sold. It's just sold recently. It's sort of what's 4-6 week settlements, for example. Then it's sort of filter into the algorithm, and so it's sucking on like a lag of say 3 months. So you're probably seeing that sold, and so the median's just starting to increase a little bit over the few months, but you're not kind of getting that real kind of growth.
Yeah. 50 grand a quarter sort of thing.
60, unless 6, 8, 9 months later. So people are really hungry to get it. Bought. Want it revalued like 2 months later, I'm like, easy tiger. And you don't want to sound like the handbrake, but like, it hasn't actually hit the algorithm yet to suck in recent comparable sales to then have that uptick in the median, which then feeds into a computer-based valuation.
Yeah, and the human valuer, when they go and do it as well, they will use the oldest comps that they can use because they want to protect themselves and their company as much as possible. That's what they're taught to do.
Valuers actually in the comments are putting... I'm seeing a lot of interstate buyers. Like we see the comments in valuation reports, and some clients don't get them because the banks won't release a report. But we see it, and they're like, I feel like this market's overheated, getting a lot of interstate buyers. I'm like, that's your opinion. That's actually not based on the valuation of the property. But they wrap that up into their market report. And so
they risk rate it because of that.
And they don't get it because a valuer is human, and they're seeing their patch. They're not seeing the Eastern Seaboard investors come in here going, this is great affordability, great yield, and great opportunity. They're just seeing their little patch of the world, and it's like they're like this, and the investors are out here, for example, and you guys as well. So, that type of rhetoric then feeds into like the assessors that are looking at deals inside banks. Just going, is this something we need to be aware of as a risk rating too? So, one small comment can then start to kind of just trigger off a chain of events as well.
For sure. Man, it's a crazy thing to see. I think I know where you're talking about with that in particular. There was one area in particular that was just the value is almost like kind of half killed off deals. The market. They're killing off the market, killing off deals because it's their opinion. And the funny thing is, I don't know if I should go into this. Cut this if it's no good, right? If we can't say it. But most investors would know the property clock, right? So Heron Todd White property clock. And then they had one of these areas at start of recovery, so like just past the bottom of the property clock. And then the valuers who are working for Heron Todd White, the same company, are then valuing it at peak of the market, risk rated it. The market's done 10%. It had done, or it may maybe done 20, 30% in that time frame, in 12 to 18 months since the start of the upswing. And the valuers literally from the same company are going, oh no, it's too hot, they're risk rating, and they were dropping 10%. 20% off all vowels because they were seeing that. And man, I've never seen it before. I literally had never seen it before in a marketplace out there on purchase. And the comps were there, but they were going, they were risk rating the area, and then they were calling the lowest sales they could from like 5-6 months ago, so they could justify these low vowels. And yeah, man, it's something you've definitely got to be wary of from that side. But I think jumping over to what your point was before around the journey is, man, no one's journey is fixed. You know what I mean? Like it's not a guaranteed result in like a guaranteed time frame side of things. And some people will get, like, you look at that story for what I mentioned about Ella. It took her 9 months to get the val, and then we bought the other one, and then 6 weeks post second purchase, it valed up 105,000 in 6 weeks. You know what I mean? So she's just going, holy crap, like, here we go. And then we sent it from that side. But man, if she had spat the dummy at 6-9 months in going, you know what, like, you told me it was going to be this, or I heard it on the podcast, or I saw the stories, and it's like, everyone's journey is different from that end. And I think, man, everyone's just got to be open to the fact that it doesn't work like absolute clockwork. It's not always exactly the same. And in property, we're dealing with people and we're dealing with bricks and mortar. And it's just two things that you can't control all the time. You know what I mean? And I think where I see people have the most success, again, we look at Ella as a case in point, look at my journey as a case in point. It doesn't always play exactly how you hope or you think it will. But having that grit, the perseverance, the determination just to keep pushing through, you know what, this is the way it is what Sammy was talking about. The time will come, bang, and then it comes. And then again, you look at Ella's second deal that got her into a third and fourth. It's just all part of the process. So whilst it may not always be the exact result that you're banking on all the time, and a lot of the time it will come out like that, but if it doesn't come out like that, you just got to trust the process, keep moving through it. The results will come. And just got to stick with the journey, because ultimately, the amount that I've made from my portfolio, I'll probably never be able to match that from an income perspective ever. It wouldn't matter what I got to from an income perspective. The way the portfolio, it outpaced me for so long in terms of income. But then what happens is it starts to snowball. And especially as you get into more and more deals and you preempt markets and you stack yourself up before a market goes, and you really load up. Like in Perth, man, I bought like 15 deals in 2021 because I could see the writing on the wall. I'm like, I bought, I think, 11, 12 deals in Brisbane in that COVID window where the market was dead. I bought like 11, you know what I mean? And like those decisions over a 3-4 year window can equate to $4 or $5 million, you know, from that side. So, man, stick to it, get yourself out there, get into the marketplace, and then the rest will take care of itself. Property is a proven commodity, right? It's a proven product. I think when you understand how to play the game, that's probably the caveat to put on it. If you go and buy in an area and go, it's 15% average annual capital growth, and that 15% has come in the last 5 years per annum, 150% growth has come in the last 5 years. It probably isn't the right area to go and buy in because it might be near the peak. If it's near the peak, you might be in for 10 years of no growth. So you have to be really intelligent with this stuff. But then if you're intelligent with it and make those smart, simple decisions, that's where the portfolio will take care of itself and build wealth that you won't be able to match from an income perspective.
And that is the kicker to a lot of the people, especially when they're older. I'm like, you've got catching up to do here. Yes. It's you got to temper that message by not sounding like you're ringing the alarm bells and from a scarcity mindset.
Well, you're trying to smash them to go buy 10 properties at once.
This is it, right? There's no sales agenda here. It's going, hey, mate, you got to take action because the longer you leave this, the heavier lifting you've got to do versus it's unfair, but someone in their 20s, like you take Bailey, for example, by the time he's mid-30s compared to his peers, I'm like, that's an unfair advantage that time has given. I've got young guys in my team. I'm like, man, you better get in now.
100%.
And you will actually probably exceed my level of property wealth by the time you're my age.
Definitely, man.
It's unfair, but the earlier you get in, the better bloody chance you've got of like seeing the rewards of your fruits of your labor.
Yeah. But at the same time, man, I think it's like circle of influence. I hear what you're saying, it's unfair, but like you're also at your age and your personality, you're helping these guys make these decisions. You know what I mean? It's the same as me helping Bales. Like, dude, in 10 years, he would be able to walk away from work. He'd probably be able to walk away from work with a Lambo or Ferrari, a couple $100,000 a year passive income if he keeps pushing it in the correct way. And, you know, you're helping a lot of people set up in exactly the same way. So I think it's like, it all comes around though. You know what I mean? Like this is what we're able to give back because of what we've been able to create from our end as well. So it's but I agree with you, dude. It's a crazy thing when you look at these guys starting out and what they're able to achieve. I thankfully was blessed that I made those decisions back then. So
absolutely,
I'm reaping the rewards.
Absolutely. You talked about say the 92%. That number gets thrown around. I'd be interested to see what the new ATO data is when that comes out. Right? Those that hit 2+ properties. But I think what also happens is there's a little bit of hard work that's reserved for, say, 3, 4, 5 properties.
Yeah.
And that means now you may be buying through a trust, self-managed super fund, you need to sit an accountant, maybe a planner, for example, if you're inclined that way. And so the team just gets a little bit bigger. There's extra steps that are involved, like you need to go see a legal professional to witness the trust documents or whatever it's going to be. And we're on the journey. Go, hey, mate, now you need to go see a lawyer to, bloody hell, man, now I've got to go see a lawyer. And I'm like,
oh, you want these docs? Are you kidding?
Just calm down, mate. You bought your 3rd, 4th investment property. Like there are some parts that are reserved for like, and I think even you said it, we had Kate Campbell, the Olympian, speak at our conference last week, and she said, pressure is a privilege. And it's a real, like, these things are reserved for people that are like pushing the boundaries, top 1% investors, for example. These are issues that are reserved for you in the top 1%, whether you're 1% business owner, property investor, athlete, whatever it's going to be. Like these, and so I'm like, my heart doesn't bleed for you, but from a client experience perspective, yes, we hear you. And so there's probably things that you've had to do that have been uncomfortable, not client friendly, time sensitive, may cost you a little bit more as well, but you're going, hey, mate, this is par for course.
Yeah, man. I think the first one you talk about there is obviously a massive piece of it. The loan docs. As you start to get through a few properties, I exactly say, you start going into trust structures and everything, man. I had the same thing, bro. I'd whinge and bitch about it. It's all part of it because you're just like, man, what do you mean? It was so easy. I just signed a couple of docs and it was done, right? And now I've got to go get it witnessed by bloody legal professionals that I'm pretty much signing away my, you know what I mean? That you're going as guarantor, these sorts of things. Yeah. And man, I think it's dude, you think about one thing, right? The average person that makes $100,000 a year, like you said before, you sign some loan docs and in 6 months you valued up $100,000 up. When people whinge about it, man, or they carry on about it, I'm just like, mate, like, how hard do you have to work every year for 100, 200 grand? Like, you spend 48 weeks of your year working your ass off to make 200 grand a year. You have 2 properties at 500 grand that do 20% worth of growth in 1 year. You just made $200,000. What did you have to do? Okay, I just signed some loan docs. Oh, I had to go see that extra. Man, put it in perspective. When you fight, when you multi-X that, you know what I mean, as well, and you get to 5 property portfolio, and that same scenario happens, dude. It's like, dude, you're going to be whinging about being up $500,000 a year in equity, and I think you just got to put these things into perspective. There's always a cost versus return analysis that'll always happen, right? Law of exchange, right? It's probably the best way to put it. Okay, you can sit on the couch and not do anything, but don't whinge about not signing the loan docs and having to go to those extra couple of things. But the 100,000 is going to go to someone else who's willing to do it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or the little headaches that come with this or that. That's what I always say to people: bricks and mortar and people. When they're involved, you're going to have some headaches. It's all part of it. But man, if you just put a little bit of that headspace aside, every week, every month, something like that, and go, okay, you know what? Well, I'm working 2 jobs at the moment. This is my 3rd job, and I've got to put 2 hours a week into it. And I've been a sucker for not staying on top of my portfolio as much as I should have, especially early in the business when you're just doing everything and you're working 80-hour weeks and you've got no time. Especially when I was buying heaps, like I let a lot of things slip in that kind of 12 to 18 month window. And then I realized, like, man, I have to go back to like putting. And I just started putting a Sunday in every month, and it would be like the first Sunday of every month because you'd get sent out all your statements, and I just go through them all, man, figure everything out, make sure I was on top of everything, make sure everything was paid and was up to date. Because missing those things, man, costs you money. You know what I mean? And it snowballs. So everything snowballs in one way or the other. If you're making mistakes snowball into really bad shit. You would know from business, from property, from life in general. Yeah. If you put things away and you let them snowball away in a bad way, it's going to be bad. Yeah. If you do all those little things and you stay on top of it, those little 1%ers, man, it snowballs in a good way. And that's when it's like all of a sudden, that result I was talking about before of like, all of a sudden you made $500,000 in a year. That's not an unheard of result. They're not unheard of results. And they snowball in the right way. And then again, we keep scaling, you have the right people around you, right team around you. It just keeps picking up and building. And the crazy thing about it, man, is like it just gets easier. I don't even think about the loan docs anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think about it.
Just part of the process.
This is part of it, man. Yeah. This is part of it. And man, you also start playing at a different level. Like even with myself these days, dude, I build granny, like we do a bit of granny flat developments and stuff. These days I just build them in cash. So I kind of like, I do a few deals, a few builds, and then every 6-12 months I'll refi out of those ones and then I'll just build the next set. You know what I mean? I've earned the right to now play at a different level. And I build it in cash. And then when those ones are finished, I pull it out and I build the next batch. And that's just the way that I get to play now. But I had to earn that right. I had to go through all the construction loan docs and everything and construction loan process and all the headache that comes with that for my first half a dozen builds, and then I got to play that bit of a different game, which makes it easier, funner, faster, and yeah, it's all part of it.
Good attitude. I like it. Let's talk about the next APS Summit. So I know it's around the corner. Nothing like a deadline, right, for you guys.
That's it.
What can someone expect turning up on particularly the Sunday?
Man, there's a lot of things, right? I think the biggest thing is the energy and being in a room full of people that are really passionate about property.
Yeah.
And like I said before, it's not like a Tony Robbins, let's all go crazy. You know what I mean? Like, not that sort of energy. Yeah. It's just like good, hectic, like property energy. You know what I mean? Like people that are passionate about property. That is literally what you're going to surround yourself with when you're in the day. Man, there's so many topics, subjects, everything that we're going to be going through with it. A lot of technical stuff that you're going through from an actual portfolio building side as well. I'm going to break down I'm going to do a big whiteboard session on how to build 150,000 net passive. Literally break it down exactly how I do it in today's market. So people say you can't do this stuff in today's market. I'll show you how to do it in today's market. Man, I'm getting some people up on stage. I'm going to strategize people's portfolios live on the stage. Nice. So man, I have no idea who they are.
Yeah.
I think you're bringing a couple of tables, man.
We're bringing. If you're listening, I usually am a little bit placid, but I'm not holding back. I'm like, if you're listening and you actually want to grab this bull by the horns and actually kind of put your money where your mouth is, because I'm making clients pay for it. Like in the past, I might have gone, we'll comp a few tickets. Yeah, right. I'm like, nah. When you pay for it, you value it.
You don't value something you don't pay for, man.
100%.
100%.
Which is why I love the fact that you pay for this, because if you didn't, they'd just register and not turn up. This is a guarantee that you're going to pay, show up, and if you don't show up, the only loser is yourself.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you want more information, we'll include all the links to the APS Summit. If you're a client, reach out to us. We're going to put all our clients together on a table and get to meet like-minded people. The energy in the room, the people that you'll meet, this is what you want to be around. This is when you want to soak up, and especially I feel like leading into that Christmas period where your personal stuff will just get put to the side. It's like if you want to start preparing to buy in 2020, this is nearly over.
Yeah.
If you're planning to buy in 2024, this ship has nearly sailed, right? But if you're going to start buying in 2025, then this is the time to then go into the Christmas period. Make it part of someone's agenda, whether it's your broker, your buyer's agent, get on their radar to make it happen in 2025. You need to plant that seed today.
Yeah. I love it, man. I appreciate the shout out for it as well.
Nah, not at all, mate. This is
one of the big parts we're going to do about it, I forgot, man, was actually how to actually set your goals as well, man. Because a lot of people heading into the Christmas break that, it's a great time.
Yeah.
As a worst case, if you don't get anything done before the end of the year, or even if you've had an okay year in property, how do you actually set the goals out? How do you set the parameters of this is what I'm trying to build, and then this is how you actually build it? And yeah, man, the whole actual mapping process around that, which typically I've always kept within School of Property, which is our education course around it. I'm going to really break it down around how to do that thing as well. Dude, there's so many components to this thing that we're going to be breaking down for people, that they're going to be able to apply in real life to their portfolio. It's like you, man, with your light bulb moment, and I'm sure you had several there on the day, but a few really key ones. Correct. Man, if all you do is take away one key light bulb moment that changes the way that you invest. You think of a ship, right? You change the direction of a course of a ship by 1 degree. So 1%, right? 1 degree. Well, it's more than 1%, but let's just say whatever. 1 degree.
For the illustration.
You know where I'm going. Yes. You set out from Sydney, from the harbour, and you go 1 degree different to everyone else, you are going to end up so far in a different spot, it's not funny. Over a long period of time, where you start is so different, so far away, it's not funny. Man, I don't want to change people by 1%. But if all they take away is 1%, then we've done our job, and the day's been worth it. But man, like, the way that we think about property investing is so different, but it's because we've done it, man. We've retired from property. We have guys that have built massive, significant 10 plus, 20 plus property portfolios. The way we do things is obviously different. And you're getting in the room, man, get to be in and around, and the difference around what people are going to be able to create from that side, man, it's crazy. And that's what I took away from the last one, man. I finished it. I was absolutely amped. I think it was about 10.5 hour sesh that we did straight. I missed a couple. I went over, I recorded, and we sent them out after. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's, man, there's so much we cover off on it, and it's just being able to really show people what's possible. I think it's it's a privilege to be able to do that side of things, and I just know there's no one that can turn up to this thing and not take some level of value 100%. Out of this thing as an absolute minimum, that 1% that we're talking about.
100%. Here's what I'd do if I was listening and I'm going to turn up. That's the Sunday. The Monday I'd be blocking out at least for a half day, and I'd be shooting off messages to my team. I.e., if it was the broker to the buyer's agent, going lock me in, because that's where the action really happens. Is for people in the next 24 to 48 hours. You get any of these conferences, any of these events, The ones that take action do it within the next 24 hours. I'd be pinging off messages going, book me in, because you're putting the monkey on someone else's back. Like if someone inquires with our businesses, mate, we've got to act on it now. They've got to go into the calendar. They've got to go booking in. Someone in the team's got to take the meeting, follows the chain event. So now you're taking that monkey and put it on someone else's back. That's actually going to take some action because they've got vested interest in seeing things through to the end as well. So that to me is the biggest part. If you're alone in the journey, come along solo. There's enough people around. He said, if you're an introvert, you don't want to talk to strangers, sit on your own on the side. People just leave you alone.
Yeah. That's what I used to do, dude. Because when I used to go to some like events and stuff myself when I was younger, 100%. You'd go, you sit in the corner, whatever it was. It's funny, man. The way I act now, I don't like being around like people I don't know. I'm not an extrovert. Go talk to everyone. So I'd sit in the corner, man. I'd take my notes, do my thing.
It's a contrast.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
a contrast.
It's funny,
Whereas I'd bring a buddy. Like to me, I have safety in like someone.
If you got someone, 100%
so I'd bring a buddy and just go, mate, let's just do this together.
Compare notes, everything.
Correct.
For sure.
And it's like, hey, mate, one in, all in. And I think we always say about the ripple effect, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Someone comes along, they can get something out of it as well. My brother got something completely different from where I was, but we still got a lot out of it as well.
You know what's huge, man? If you're able to, bring your partner. You know where most people go wrong, dude? Is
well said.
You know I'm going
well
with this.
Said.
The partner's not on board and they're like, no, I don't understand this. I don't get this. You're risking our money. You're risking this, risking that. If you're able to bring your partner, whether it's a wife, a husband, whatever it is, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is, man, especially if they're not on the journey with you or you're trying to get them on the journey, even if you're not there yet, man, even if you're saving for your first deposit, this doesn't need to be for the advanced investors of 10 plus. This will change the way you think about property. But man, if you bring your partner to these things, man, we have people that like they'll be listening to a potty and they'll find something that is like super relevant to their partner, and then they'll get into the car as they're about to drive. Oh, sorry, there's only 5 minutes left of this. Do you mind if I just finish this? And then it'll play something, and they're like, oh my god, that's us, or that's me, or whatever. And then they're like, holy shit, you know what I mean? And then they start thinking about it, talking about it, and so many people's journeys have changed from that. And yeah, man, if you're able to bring your partner, or just take them along, man, it will be a game changer from that perspective.
This is what I say. And if you listen to my episode with Ben Nash, I spoke to him exactly about this point, because what happens is one partner takes the lead, one person in the relationship usually takes the lead. They've listened to the podcast, they've watched the videos, they've maybe looked at School of Property or whatever other resources are out there, and they're so heavily subscribed and they expect their partner to catch up to where they are.
Yeah.
But they've spent like 20, 30, 40 hours of their own time. It's like, mate, you can't expect them just overnight just to see, that level of time investment, personal development that you've put. You need to allow them the chance to catch up. And because it's your idea, naturally they're just going to shut off and try and protect you because, you're so heavily subscribed to this, right? So not that they're trying to be a handbrake. They just haven't been at the level. So I tell all the clients when they're like, someone's reaching out, like, where's your partner at? You allow them the time to catch up to where you are as well.
Yeah, for sure, man.
So something like this where you can come into an event, their monkey brain's going to switch off a little bit, they're going to sell us from the stage. Like, there's nothing to sell here. You've paid off your own dime. There's no selling here. We're just here to serve you with some good information and see you do well. That's how I looked at it.
Man, I'm actually really glad you brought that up, because for me, I'm not a seller, right? So like I'm not a salesperson, dude. I come from I'm a labourer, dude. Like I literally come from a farm, right? And it's so funny you bring that up, because like at the end of the last one, the biggest feedback that we got was we were just waiting for the pitch.
Everyone comes to these things, what's the hook?
And there's no pitch. It was just like, you know what I mean? It was literally to inspire, invigorate, and train people from that perspective. There was no pitch, man. You know what I mean? And man, like I love that component of it. It's cool, man. I think people will take so much value out of this thing, just turning up on the day, man. Come with an open mind. Especially if you're in Sydney. It's Sydney, right? It's a huge city. So many people, so many investors here, man. Don't make an excuse for it. It's one day, and if that day can set you up for a massive 2025 in property, think about it, man. If you can get an extra 1, 2, 3, or maybe you're stuck. If you're stuck, and this is your way to then get yourself unstuck and get yourself another 1, 2, 3 properties next year, how much is it going to make for you? So man, that's just the way I look at it, mate. I think about all the people that I used to go to seminars to in the room, and I'd watch and I'd listen to them. It's funny because looking back now, I've actually never realized this till I just was thinking about this a second ago, literally as you were talking, and none of them have actually achieved what most of the people, or what a lot of people in that room have actually achieved. There's a lot of people that talk a lot. They talk a big game. Oh, you got this course and we do this, they're developing the options, all the rest of the stuff. How many of them actually made property? How many of them actually made their wealth through property, before a buyer's agent, before a course, before all these things. You know what I mean? And this is where I think that really strong implementable action will be able to come off the back of it, and hopefully, man, change your financial future the same as it did for you earlier this year.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And like I said, we don't play favorites in our business, but when I've seen it firsthand and what we're doing together, I said, mate, this is an opportunity for us to really kind of double down and say, look, we see what you guys are doing, you guys see what we're doing, and it's just been a really good synergy, mate, between us and you guys, man. That's why I said to everyone, do whatever you can to be there. So if you want details, the Australian Property Scout Summit, we'll include the links. Sam, this time I want to say, mate, you've been super generous, and it goes pretty quick.
It does
because
go quick,
for
man.
you, mate, this just rolls off the tongue. That's what I love about it. The energy that you kind of come, the frequency that you come bring to this, you can't help but become a little bit infectious. So, mate, kudos to you, mate. Well
Thank
done.
you, man. I really appreciate it.
Love seeing where you guys are going. And, yeah, we're looking forward to kind of doing a recap off the back of that. And I'll do a recap once we've gone to that, going what were the big takeouts from that day at the summit. If you've loved this episode, let us know. If you want a ticket, be involved, let us know. Drop us a message, mate. We're loving all the messages that are coming through as well. And like I said, if you're starting out your journey and you do want your property roadmap done, reach out to us. Or if you've got a portfolio you want that reviewed, just hit us up with a portfolio review and we'll get in touch about organising one of those for yourselves as well. That's a wrap for another episode of the Australian Property Investment Podcast. Thanks very much.